Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
I told you in the beginning that I'm a two-time candidate. I was lucky enough that Kawempe constituency as a whole, South and North, was one of my constituencies in 2020-2021. I saw the resistance we received in 2020. It was not the same resistance. And here is, I'll tell you. Government had actually made inroads. It's like they never left those areas. There was an initiative called the Presidential Skidding Initiative. It's largely located in Kawempe South. This is Chikoni, Mulago, and Wandegea. I happened to be a guest at 4 graduations. And we were graduating not less than 700 graduates. Some from Kawempe North, others from the South, others from other parts of...
And they never voted for you?
No, I cannot say that. Even as I speak today, I have 9,558 votes. You, Simon, who has never stood, you take that vote for granted.
I have stood before.
Okay, if you've stood, you know that that vote cannot be taken for
what
granted.
Was declared
in Kawempe North. In Kawempe North. So, you can't, even if I'm NRM, you can't tell me that we did not have support. That would be a lie. Now, that is one initiative. I found that the president, through State House, had made another initiative called the Presidential Ghetto Fund. And their actual beneficiaries, like Amigo, Kawempe Mbogo, these are whatever. There is also this group in Chebando, the ghetto people who in Pentagon. Then, kindly, let me first finish.
If you can give a minute, you're going to ask.
The third program, and I can tell you, people were hopeful because of these programs, and that's why, compared to 2020, 2021, I received, plus Councillor Masut, because we were campaigning as NRM candidates, a warm campaign period that gave us hope as candidates, if you asked me, of an eventual win.
Let me help I have a lot of relationship with her. She's the daughter of Haji Moses Tugongo from Butambala. But also we share this on the mother's side. We are all from Chimba, and that's where her mother and my mother hail from. And I've just learned about it today. While she asked me about my mother, I said, how do you know my mother? Then she told me, Chitimba. And so let me help you, Hajat. I was physically at Imbogo. I get a call from Honorable Simbwa at about 10 minutes to the close of polling, that the situation is like building up at Imbogo, and I needed to reinforce them. So I drove and went to Mbogo. By the close of polling, I was at Imbogo. But that told me at about 15 minutes to close of polling, there was increased security detail, including armored personal carriers, members, and every other form of but also amidst that were deployments of thugs, okay, what we commonly call chiefs. But also in presence was Honorable Balam.
So who commanded the chiefs?
I'm now going to give you a full story I'm an eyewitness of what happened at Imbogo. Now, you remember in the morning, vehicles had parked inside the football pitch. They were all chased away and told to park past the mosque in the parking lot, and that's where I think you parked to go and vote. Now, that field had 5 or 6 polling stations. 5 polling stations. Now, at the time of when polling closed, counting started properly. Well until, and the process of counting is when people leave their homes to go and see how they voted. So a huge crowd had built up around Imbogo to witness the counting. Now the army at that polling station began to chase away the crowd and cordoned off the whole place. During that fight, that fracas, with the army chasing away, people are people. Now, thugs had also penetrated that crowd. They began, and I will be honest with you, those thugs were the chiefs deployed by Balaam and Mr. Commander, the minister. Now, they began to hit the army with stones to justify the continued brutality on the people who had assembled.
Are you sure they were chiefs?
I was there. I'm not telling you a story. Now, at that time, the army had rounded off all journalists in the middle of it and told them, none of you can lift a camera, not even a phone. So all the journalists and civil society witnesses, I was there with Chris. You know Chris of NGO Forum? I was there with the Farida. You know Farida? Lule. All those they were election observers. So what happened? They were there. I was there with them. So what happened? Later on, 4 members descended on that football pitch, and they took positions from all directions. And then a group that came from a corner where Balaam was standing, some very tall men, and with masks, not uniformed, first descended on one polling station where they had started, almost finished counting. And I can tell you what you got on that box. 260 was for Nalukolo. You had 20. Because counting had started.
Farida had 20.
Had 20. Nalukolo had 260. Because I was there. So that's the first polling station where thugs attacked and disrupted. The army pretended to be as if it was chasing those thugs and protected them and pushed them off the football pitch. Counting was continuing in all other centers, all other polling stations. What happens now, by that time Mr. Kabanda arrives with another huge gang of people. She stood where Balaam was. A negotiation took place between the commander of now whatever, not the police.
And you were witnessing?
I'm a witness. A negotiation took place between the commander and Balaam. And they later, by that time the police had been overpowered. It was no longer in charge. So that group now descended on the rest of other polling stations and kicked. This group was from a corner where Mr. Kawanda was and Balaam. The army pretended as if they were protecting them and escorting them after that disruption. The Electoral Commission, then the situation was so difficult that the journalists had now been escorted out of the football pitch completely and told the police leave. Actually, police, the group wanted to descend on civil society and other observers. The police had to put a security ring even that's how I got protection, that to put a security ring. So that's what happened in Mbogo. The Electoral Commission had no choice, was to cancel that polling center. Now, immediately they finished disrupting that, the same group, escorted by the armored vehicles and the drones and all those gangs, they descended to Kazangola.
I think I can give credit to the NRM for the bravery with which they can maintain such a debate before media houses, calculated to create a possibility, a figment of a possibility that actually they were injured in the process. I also clearly, of course, sympathize with my sister here. You know, she has got a supporter at home. My wife incidentally supports her. And that is the kind.
Your wife is NRM?
I have not yet inquired, but she supports her. because there is completely no politics at home. So I will make that inquiry, Simon, and I promise I will return with an answer. But I can sympathize with our sister here. for purposes that she has been conditioned to think, if we are to place it within the proximity of ordinary understanding, she has been conditioned to think that a short man is actually a boy. That every short man you see is a boy. And there is a very big problem. I can equally guarantee, I think my piece of advice I can give you is that please don't invest a lot of hopes in any possibility of a viable election petition. Election petition is, Simon, are guided by majorly two major precincts, two major limbs. Either there was an act, an election offense, or irregularities. And with irregularities, it is wider. There must be a capability or a possibility that the irregularities conducted can substantially have affected, of course, the results. Now, the irregularity they are trying to build, and I am happy that my brother here is pushing it to counting of votes, because the irregularity contemplated under the Act is in terms of having the capacity to definitely injure the possibility of voting. But how many voters were at that polling station? Commensurate with the total votes that were cast. To the extent that then, if my sister believes that any interruption of voting was an interruption of votes related to her own enjoyment, because clearly all evidence points to the fact that wherever people voted, she didn't win. Now, except if she wanted to imply that by way of surprise, she was meant to win the very polling stations that received some kind of cataclysm. I think they should allow you to rest and begin to think about, first of all, it was a brave measure that anybody, NRM, would compete in that constituency.
Honorable, you're sounding preemptive to the intention to have an inquiry, as the president has intimated. I think the inquiry is born out of good faith.
Who is inquiring? What is the veracity of the person inquiring? The truthfulness of that person that commences the inquiries.
No, it's not the first time. Take, for instance, I thought you would side with relief that finally government is bowing into the demand for an audit into an election.
I have got a very strong opinion against government continuing to keep us under the debate of what happened in Kawempe North. Because clearly the protagonist was government. We can exonerate her for purposes that she was only a conduit. She was an instrument of oppression against NUP. Unintendedly. She was used as a clog. She was clothed in a lion's skin.
That's very unfair to her.
And that is why,
of a sound mind.
Yes, but the soundness of mind should be measured continuously. If she lands herself in a court, then the soundness of mind, of course, obviously receives questions. But we would have left it at because, of course, at the commencement of her submission here, she has actually been tipped that she got some more votes after the final declaration of results. So I don't know which algorithm is being used, that the calculations are still continuous. I don't know, by the time we are done with the show, probably she would have acquired close to 170,000 votes.
There have been quite a number of internal events within political parties, and the most outstanding were the party primaries on both sides of the aisle. NUP went for vetting, a process that was mired in a lot of mystery, that actually produced questionable characters, and then NRM also had a lot of drama at the Kololo event. How do you sum this up?
I think both have to be understood differently. There are 3 points you can raise here. First of all, you're looking at a national condition, right? That, you could talk about Museveni order of things. All of us are afflicted by the same problems. We are all under Museveni's Uganda. All of us, the challenges are the same. Museveni's Uganda prides in an absence of a formula. You know, like if you look specifically at SEC, what happened at SEC is violence and money. That's the thing that works for Museveni's Uganda. Violence and money. If you look specifically at NUP, NUP has a conflicting identity nowadays, right? I think the identity is conflicting. And as you can imagine, somebody like myself who supports my friend Francis Zake for Speaker of Parliament, for LOP.
I thought that was it.
No, to this day I'm still in Francis Zake's corner as leader of opposition. But you see, it has also become very conflicted to do something like that. Because you see, on the one hand, NUP as a political party embodies the ideas of revolutionary struggle. We need to remove the dictator. You see, we are tired of people who speak so much English. We just need to remove the dictator. That's what the wave meant, removing the dictator. And it was a wonderful slogan. I was part of the People Power movement at the very beginning. We believed in these ideas, and I'm telling you, even to this day, if we still embody those ideas, I still believe, you know, you can't replace Matthias Impuga with Senyonyi, because both of them speak English. They are lawyers. If you want a raucous noisemaker who will solve Kuzoganya, you replace him with Francis Zake. Because the idea was Kuzoganya at the very beginning. But now they've become technocrats, and the more they've decided to technocratize themselves, because right now they presented the Decent Manifesto, they have technocratized, but at the same time they are rooting for noisemakers. You see, it's confusing.
Yes. Do you look at the NRM as the yardstick or the bar for internal democratic processes?
Definitely not. And I'll start from this position that we are put in a situation where under the NRM's democracy, as they try to define it, although as parties we went under severe restrictions for a long period of time, even up to today, a lot of the operations and functions of parties are restricted legally and also extra judicially. We are restricted on activities. But the point which I want to really stress here is that for the recent past, Uganda has failed to hold the LC1 elections at that level.
Under NRM?
Under NRM, NRM in government, after 38 years, we are failing to hold LC1 elections. But us as political parties, we're expected to mirror that structure from village. And the reason given at a national level where we fail to hold elections at village level is lack of funds. The government of Uganda does not have funds to conduct LC1 elections across the country. And the LC1 is...
Can you look at the NRM grassroots election as an internal party event?
No, this point is very critical because an LC1 chair handles a lot of issues. If you want your ID, you want anything, you have to go through your LC1. But we failed to hold it. But as a political party, UPC is expected to mirror that from the village. DP is expected the same. PFF, who've joined us recently, are expected to do the same to carry that whole issue. They are failing themselves. Recently, yes, they're saying they've had their elections. I need to ask, where did those funds come from? Is there how we're going to deal with this one? Because at a national level, Uganda, we have failed. Each time it's postponed. 6 months is postponed.
Yeah, but you should find it enviable that the NRM
let me give him
I have held
information which is
point of information.
First of all,
You're coming in. You're
I
coming
was
back.
the one submitting, and I thought he was giving me information or questioning why.
I don't give you trust yourself.
The point he has made about LOC1 elections, he has missed one point, that LOC1 officers are not part of the party structures. That's why even in our elections, we provided flag bearers. That's one.
Okay.
Two, those elections.
Yes. Simon,
wait a minute.
are we on the same program? Are we talking about the same thing? Which structure does not begin at the village?
Why don't
NRM begins at the village, UPC will begin at the village.
you let me finish what I was telling you?
No, you are the one who's
If you were to ask why we did not have...
You certainly come back.
I was on the floor.
Yes.
Who is interrupting who? He's saying let me finish. I'm the one
No. It was his turn.
I was on the floor.
No. I just wanted to make a point of information.
Understand, we're also here. We have our issues to make. It is not your monopoly to determine everything. The whole structure is a big issue which it causes a problem. Now, what we worked out, at least what I tried to work out within the confines of IPOD, was how can we improve the democracy? And we now expected from the funding, which was from government, we'll be able to have our annual meeting.
Yeah, but in all honesty, you've also conducted village elections in Lango.
In Lango, yes.
Yes, you've conducted village elections in Lango with zero interruption.
And he chooses to be zonal instead of going national.
Yes.
No, please. Before you leave this point, I've told you that we are conducting our village elections systematically because we don't have the resources.
Honorable, you announced that you are going to conduct elections between 12th and 19th.
We are in the process. We are in the process. No, we have not completed. I'll tell you openly on national media. We have not completed.
Today is the 19th.
Whether you have a timetable.
Today is the 19th.
The timetable and the actual work. I'll tell you, we have not completed the work.
This is...
we have not.
Honorable Bide, I'll give you a minute before we take a break.
When you listen to Honorable Wesonyiwe, the viewers need to be told what he is doing when he praises the NRM for dealing with
correction,
being people centered.
You'll come here. No, it's okay.
Let me first correct.
No, allow him make a submission.
I'm not praising it.
But how
they was giving a status of how they
practice. Granted.
But your party is not an innocent party. It is generally really the fulcrum of politics in Uganda. So when we talk about you, you are not as if we are talking about the rest.
I agree with you.
Yes,
absolutely.
So for you, what you are doing by praising the NRM is generally passing a post-mortem of what killed the other parties. It is the NRM. Why? There are two systems, and one of them has been adumbrated heavily by Honorable Akena. Access to the bottom, where you expect us to be, can only be allowed months to an election. So you cannot have a bottom up of other political parties except the NRM, because we are not allowed access to that bottom.
The months you're talking
headquarters.
I mean, you have, except if you are magical. You go to the bottom today, and all you find at the bottom is what you gamble out with. You choreograph a process, and that is all that you end up with. That is number one. Number two, access to resources. What the NRM does is to establish, they call it broad-based, it's just bread-based. They establish a bread-based political system of prebendalism using the resources.
So you agree that your president extended the bread to enable you hold your delegates conference?
So what you are doing is to explain what actually killed all the other parties. To the extent that you even think you are explaining that your party itself did not die in the process. It did. You were asked here.
Well, we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll still be making a digest of what happened in 2025 and how it would spill into the conversation in 2026. Political conversation of 2026. I'm with Dr. Yusuf Serunkurma as he digs deep into the big stories, the big headlines. Well, fast forward, this year has been, 2025 has been more of laying ground for the grand election of 2026. Come Jan 15th, Ugandans will be walking to the ballot. There have been quite a number of proclamations. There have been quite a number of players. Honorable Mao came out and promised that this would be the quietest election. Parliament failed on instituting any kind of electoral reforms because Mao said he had hit a snag, he had hit a dead end. What's your analysis of the build-up and what it reveals?
You know, you talk about the different centers of power which are issuing proclamations. I think there are quite a number. So you start from the Minister of Justice, you come to the CDF, Mhosca and Rugaba, you come to Yoweri Museveni himself, then you come to the Electoral Commission. Those are about 4 centers of power, all of them issuing proclamations, oftentimes conflicting proclamations, right? And so for example, the most exciting one, the EC says, as per the laws, once you voted, you can stay 20 meters away from the polling station.
That's the law?
That's the law. And then the CDF tells us that no, vote and go home, right? After you voted, please go home, don't stay. If you stay, they'll take you home. And then, Yoweri Museveni issued one statement where he said that if the biometric machine is not working at that polling station will not vote. You see, and then the minister, as you said, tells us that it's going to be the quietest. For me, I think what looks like a contradiction, what looks like a conflicting proclamations are part of the choreography. We have a predetermined electoral process. We know Museveni is going to be declared winner. We know there will be a fairly sizable number of opposition MPs, and the majority will be NRM. We know all these things, and these are things that really matter.
It's a choreography.
But the biggest fear is what would happen if, as I said at the very beginning, if these boys get excited, if this boy try to dream bigger than just looking for votes, if these boys force their president to say, why are we part of the circus? Why are we here? What happens if excitement builds up? What happens if they actually call Article 21 of the Constitution and say, we are allowed to protest unarmed? Why don't we do that? Because, Simon, you need to know that modern revolutions are actually unarmed. When Bashir fell in Sudan, nobody was shooting. They just seated in the square. When Mubarak fell in Egypt, the Tahrir Square was just full with people. No, there were no arms. So modern revolutions are actually unarmed. Right? And this is the fear. But if these boys get excited and they say, let's forget the circus, let's just move. So the different centers of power are issuing proclamation, all of them geared to protecting the thing. How do we assemble it together? So there's a good cop called the EC. The EC will come and apologize when there's violence by the UPDF. So there's a good cop, there's a bad cop. So the good cop is the Electoral Commission, right? And the bad cop is the bad cop. UPDF, Uganda Police. Well, you can forgive Uganda Police, but UPDF mostly. Because you remember, I had a debate where I featured with the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission when Imbara had just happened. He was only apologetic. He couldn't say much. He said it is regrettable that UPDF is getting involved to this level, right? But what looks like conflicting proclamations, all of those are meant to shepherd a process to its conclusion. A process that the results is already known, but we need to make sure we don't get...
It has two tools, and those tools are the ones that are causing the biggest chaos. Number one, they have positions to give. And on that one, they have used it to disorganize everybody, especially those I have talked about who are on a flight, they are on a journey, they are in transit, they are waiting for the next flight. And two, they control the resources of the country, and they use it as they want and when they think it can be applied. And therefore that one again confuses. And they have actually also benefited from the weakness of our minds, whereby everybody, if people, they see me speak to Ofono Opondo or being next to him, and they say, he has been bought. And they are using it as a tool, and it works for the NRM better than everybody else. And even where they have not bought,
you have two.
They will tell you somebody has been paid. That is the biggest. That's the big challenge, and it is a threat to the national coherence, because everybody now is suspicious of the other, and some of the shortcomings you see happen is because of that. And they have used it very, 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 very wisely. You see, for example, when Ofono came in, he said, hey, Imam, these days, maybe I don't listen to the radios. Then he said, probably they gave you something to eat. And I said, now, Ofono. Because me who knew Ofono before, I said, Ofono, my friend, is saying this. Then I went back at what he was writing in the vision longer before. he became what he is.
Before he ate.
Yes, before. Probably he thinks. Then I told him, you see, I do not have a price tag. I know. Nobody has money
where do you place,
to buy me,
where
my conscience especially.
Yes. Where do you place these calls for opposition unity, opposition working together? What does that even mean in our circumstances?
They are healthy, but because of politics of interest, not politics of principle, they are not likely to work.
Thank you.
They were actually registered by NRM, and they are NRM-affiliated political parties. But also, political parties...
Many were severed by the Electoral Commission because they are not compliant. I think the current number is about 29 political parties.
Whatever number you now have. Now, so many also other political parties have found it logical within their favor to work with government. So they are no longer in the opposition. You don't tell me Mukasambide's party. Democratic Party it has an MOU with the government, so it is part of government. Don't tell me Akena's UPC is part of government. Now, a section, what is disturbing now FDC, that a section works with government but has not formalized. They are working with the government. So those who don't want to work with the government are saying, we are forming our own party.
Well, on that very point, still talking Parliament, we've seen quite a number of controversial debates in Parliament. The coffee bill, the UPDF amendment bill, and several others. How would you rate the performance of Parliament on these very critical items of the law?
Well, all those were unfavorable to many people, but they went through. But the decisions to move those things, you know, UCDA touched me closely, because I really love, you know, our biggest cash cow. As a country, if you have to grow, you have to have a bigger stake in your biggest export, which is coffee. 12 million Ugandans participate in growing coffee. Perhaps the biggest, you know, employer of Ugandans is coffee growing. You know, peasants earn their livelihood from coffee. So there should be a center of power which sort of give them coherence and ideas on what to do. And that used to be the UCDA. Every elite opinion in this country which matters about coffee, from people in Busoga Cooperative Union, Nandala Mafabi, to Ezra's Ruma, to people in UCDA, to coffee farmers from different, all of them argued that UCDA should stay. But the decision is not taken by them. The decision is taken by other people. It was dissolved. It was disbanded. The court gave us a judgment to say the court martial shouldn't be a functional entity. It shouldn't be trying civilians. It's still active. So I'm telling you, Parliament.
This matter, when it came to Parliament, I asked the government people, because the Attorney General told the Parliament that the court martial has stopped immediately. I asked him, so this court martial to hold the trials was moved by which decree? Yeah. Chris Bariomunsi, you look bad.
No, maybe to you.
To anyone sensible.
No.
It doesn't have to be limited
so who
to
told
me.
You are sensible?
I said to anyone sensible.
The problem for you, Isaac,
see,
you think you are sensible.
This Chris Bariomunsi,
you say what you want to say.
When he was at Ginger Road here arrested.
Can we deal with the messaging?
No, I am answering.
Yes.
And I didn't want to go back
by the way to speak. What is your problem?
Because it is very painful to him.
To who?
They were denied him even basic things like sandals, and they told him it is Museveni who has ordered so. That's why immediately after there, you went to see Museveni in Rwakitura. So you were in prison on Museveni's orders. You are now asking, Besigye is not there. We said Museveni.
So how is it related?
It is related.
How?
You see, the refusal to implement the Supreme Court decision is not a decision of cabinet. It's not his decision. It is a decision.
The Supreme Court has not been implemented.
What has been implemented?
I don't know what you're asking.
What decision of the Supreme Court has not been implemented?
You see, once the Supreme Court said, first annulled the
sections of the EPDF Act that establish the General Court Martial, and the General Court Martial is no longer there. But that General Court Martial was the one that had remanded the Besigye. So the remand warrant expired.
That's not true.
You don't have to be a lawyer.
No.
So the marshal is there.
I think
it is there.
I think
so. Besigye is on which remand.
This mob action needs to stop. I think that first of all, the opposition people are trying to blackmail the government by whipping public sentiment on a serious legal matter. Guys, let us have one discussion. The Supreme Court rules.
Hold it.
The Supreme Court's judgment. The Supreme Court's judgment was that the trial of civilians should not happen in the General Court Martial.
No, it should happen. Hold it. Nullification of the section that establishes the court martial.
Listen,
we'll pull down the decision. We'll pull down the decision.
He's heckling. This is a problem that we have.
Allow one.
You has authorized you to speak. You also have.
He is the one who has authorized me.
Honorable Semuju.
Yes.
Yes. Let's be fair. You jumped.
No, you jumped. Charles, we know the kind of people we are dealing with.
Andrew, go ahead.
So here is the issue. The Supreme Court's judgment was very clear. It said civilians should not be tried in the court martial. The case should be transferred to the High Court. It did not say that the charges against Besigye are illegitimate or illegal. It's not in the judgment. Therefore, what has to happen now is to transfer the case to the court. It did not say Besigye should be released. It did not imply that Besigye should be released. But let me guys tell you, you see, for me, the opposition, as you can clearly see, and Besigye supporters, try to run from the substantive issues of this case and hide behind the emotions. One, if Besigye is in bad health, as a result of what Dr. Mariamusi has said, him going on hunger strike, if Besigye is trying to commit suicide, it is his right to do so, in my view. He can take his own life. But he cannot use hunger strike to blackmail government to release him. Besigye is arrested in a meeting where he was planning to overthrow the government violently, in which case thousands of Ugandans would have died. Two, in that same meeting,
that's an assumption, Andrew.
Well, at least we all have the audios. And these audios, I told you the last time I was here.
Supplied by your boss.
Those audios, yeah. I sent them to a friend of mine at Microsoft and two other friends at Apple, and they told me two things.
You got them as who, Andrew?
Well, as any person.
And it's where you have a
so do you see, you Mwenda, you got these audios as who? So do you realize the trick? He ran away
persecuting Besigye.
But can you stop interrupting so that we can have a debate?
Shocked that I have the audio.
If Mwenda has the audio like this,
Honorable Semuju, please hold it.
You first listen to others so that we can have a civil
debate. One person speak at a time.
Let us have a public debate. You see, it does not matter how I got them.
So Mwenda, it does.
It does not matter how I got them. Who told you that?
Could you kindly respect the show?
But Semuju, can you stop disrupting? You will have your chance to speak.
Hold your time.
I'm just asking a legitimate question. So you have videos as
Honorable Semuju, please allow members to contribute.
So you can clearly
have your time to speak.
It does not matter. You see, this is the issue I told them.
Your thought?
You see, in the case,
the abuse.
In the case, the
abuse of the state.
But can't you control this?
One day you are in a government chopper, you are in a military uniform, they are picking children from the street that they are putting on the beret, and you don't see any problem with that, and then you want to civilize the debate.
I am going to ask that.
Okay, so Besigye was planning to murder Museveni.
You are in a government chopper. So why are you going to murder in a government chopper?
Let me ask you this.
Are you a soldier?
Is Museveni,
Honorable Semuju, please
was Besigye in that meeting where he was planning to murder Museveni in cold blood? Guys, because these people of the opposition are trying to keep up sentiment.
Hold it up.
Let me make the point. Besigye was in a meeting planning to kill Museveni in cold blood.
Another big headline of the year. NUP made a U-turn around the issue of iPod, this time requesting to return to iPod, the very institution that they hugely despised back in the day.
Yeah.
How much of a contradiction is this, and what does it mean, in your opinion?
I don't think it's a contradiction. I think it's entrapment. It's entrapment. You see, as a party such as the National Unity Platform should be free to go around the country, mobilize, organize, collect resources, right? But they are not able to do that. And then they find themselves that their best ideals, of independence and political mobilization have been difficult to work with. So they find themselves trapped in a position that if they want to do politics, they have to return to IPOD. I don't
Is
think
it for the money or for ideas?
I think, well, I like the way you frame the question, because either way, I think you want to throw the man at the bus. First, the money is central to politics, because you're going to be going around the country. You need to give money to your candidates. You have to have money.
Were they naive in the first place in dissing?
No, they were moved by ideas.
No, when they were dissing iPod, were they naive?
No, they had a legitimate point. The point was legitimate. But they find themselves trapped. That it's difficult for us to mobilize resources, not because people can't give us money, but because of the system in which we operate. And then you realize there's free money being dished out. You can pick it and use it against the regime. You see? And what did the regime do? The regime just said, we're not going to give it altogether. You see? So I see it as entrapment as opposed to opportunism or a contradiction. I see at that hour of reckoning, they realize, well, we are trapped in many ways.
So even those who are saying that the criteria now in the law is by participation, maybe they are forgetting. Because Museveni has no interest in attending meetings of IPOD. He has attended only, I think, one, then he hosted another one in Rwakitura. And the purpose for his attendance was to tell the international community and the religious leaders here and the elders, the Ogola and others, that there is a mechanism. Don't introduce another thing that I should go and dialogue with the parties already there too. And he wrote about it.
So if this law is implemented to the letter,
so I say
Akena will also be eating.
The parties, because they have said we don't qualify, I think we qualify because you are now a parliamentary party. But the parties have to make a decision. Do you go to a meeting that Museveni wants to use to create an impression that there is no problem in Uganda, we even speak to each other? Do you want to go to that meeting? The population, you have to speak to the population to understand that.
Already, Mao's decision is affecting parties. Because for us in the NRM, we pay salaries from the money that we raise. We fund the rent for the offices. Many years ago, you used to hear the areas that the NRM used to have, and unpaid areas for rent throughout the whole country. Right now, we are fully up to date.
So you don't pick from the state pass?
We have not.
Okay.
We have not, because right now, if it were not for the money that we have been raising through the nomination fees, would be having challenges in funding some of the activities.
But it's not late for Dombo to lie.
For some of the activities now. I want to tell you.
At least three of us here are journalists. I remember when Museveni was telling Kasule Lumumba to disband the NRM infrastructure, he said, I am tired of paying. That's why he reduced staff. But from the very beginning, when Museveni was holding meetings, even before he became a director for communication, and I think it must have been Kadaga who was telling him, he said, after elections, disband all the NRM infrastructure because I need 12 billion per month to run them.
Our budget,
so the money that funds is taxpayers' money.
Our budget
it is not
every
from
quarter,
electoral commission.
Our budget every quarter, without delving into the details, our biggest expense are the salaries, because we are the only party which has staff in every district, not even just every district, every political district. Because the divisions of Kampala are political districts for us, and we have admins there, we have registrars, we have assistant admins, we pay rent, and already we're having...
It's all picked from EC.
We're from EC, and we're having challenges right now if it wasn't for this money. So, the sooner...
You pay rent for 200 offices from EC money,
yeah,
and salaries.
Absolutely.
And buy vehicles.
How much do you pick every quarter?
Because every quarter we pick about...
Look at their vehicles, the ones of...
About 8
Can that money from EC buy all those vehicles and pay office and pay...
They pick 9 billion.
8 point something billion.
And how much does no pick?
1 point something.
Per quarter?
Yeah.
So, this is money which really has been very helpful to organizations, to parties. I just imagine what NRM would be without adequate fundraising internally with the challenges. We were in areas, many places, many people had not been paid for a very long time. So we believe one of the things Mao should expedite the process of developing the statutory instruments and also developing the guidelines of how that money is
But
being used.
do you think the new law, the amended Political Parties Act, is in good faith?
No, it's not.
Let me tell you, before you look at the faith of the people, look at the faith of the people who are getting money without participating.
But
so why should they be getting money when money is funded without giving accountability and also answering the call or the need why people should because iPod, what is the purpose of going to
Has the Electoral Commission complained about matters accountability?
The members of parliament are the ones who complain because they are the ones who make the law. They amended the law. Who am I to complain?
The law, certainly the amendment, was not brought in good faith. On this very show, with the Honorable Jimmy Akena of UPC, he indicated how they were not consulted and is a member of iPod. I am the vice chairperson of the National Consultative Forum. We were never consulted. There is no single political party, including NRM, which was consulted when they are bringing this amendment. And indeed, it's true that when they were bringing this amendment, the target was NUP at that particular point. He's mixing two things, and that's the information I want to give him, that the question of public funding of political parties is a statutory matter. IPOD, as has been, was an NGO, unknown to the laws of Uganda. Now, but because NRM believes it has the character of a con artist, creating an impression of what they are not. They want to create an impression that there is tolerance, there is peaceful coexistence, that they are in dialoguing with the opposition, while they continue to beat, harass and stop the opposition from running its business. So the money that parties receive from the national coffers previously had nothing to do with iPod, because iPod was an NGO. Now,
so is iPod now the new stick?
Now, like he has mentioned that the minister is handling it in a shabby manner, because they were driven by bad faith. They rushed and said, how can we punish these people of NUP who have refused to be accomplices in creating this wrong impression? They rushed and came up with that amendment. But they forget one thing. Now, with this new amendment, iPod has been made an organ of the National Consultative Forum, of which we are a party.
Norbert Mao called them milk card politics. You need a milk card to deliver you to the promised land. You need a milk card to deliver you to the dining table. You know, I don't think we have a political party in this country. I don't think we have anything you can call a political party in this country.
How about no?
It's not a political party.
What is it?
It's a platform. It's a platform that was designed to... Also, the parties is a product of our bullying. That, you know, it used to be a movement. People of our movement. A movement which is meant to be project-driven. A movement with a project. But it was bullied into becoming a political party. So it doesn't have the characteristics of a political party. It still has the characteristics of a movement. It was bullied into a political party.
What are these outfits all about?
They are supposed to be movements, but we call them parties. And it's okay. You see, Kenya is a wonderful example. Every year they form a coalition, a movement to deliver a project, and then the next year they come up with something else. I think that's how it should be. Because political parties are built on long-standing ideas. We don't have this. If our idea is to bring about change, that's not an ideological position. If your idea is to resist it, that you are a resistant movement, resisting what? So even when there's nothing to resist, you'll be in resistance mode. So parties are like labor for workers, people who work with their hands. They need to be protected, they need to have insurance, housing. There'll be workers across history. So you have a labor.
Ever since I took charge of this party, I have been very unfairly treated by the media, like yourselves. You talk about chaos. In NRM primaries, there are even dead bodies. Do you remember the primaries of Mwesigwa Rukutana, where a dead body dropped in Ntungamo?
So it can only be comparable to that.
I think if you don't look at the context of the whole of Uganda, you'll find that actually DP Delegates Conference was quite tame. You see what's happening, what in Najana Nkumbi. Do you remember the chairman of FDC running for his life, climbing over a wall and rushing breathless on Entebbe Highway, pleading with a random driver of a car to get him out of the area? I've never had you roast them here. But when it happens to Mao and DP, you really put us in the hottest part.
Yeah, because you're the benchmark of true, transparent democracy.
Then why don't you first start by praising?
And failed on that mark.
Why don't you first start by praising us?
You were hitherto.
No, it is not hitherto. I'm simply telling you, we are dealing with situations we did not create. If you have a candidate like our Bukoto Central MP, who I actually warned when we had the National Council in Soroti, I told him, excuse me, sir, you are not qualified to be president. The position of president is a very serious president, and you cannot compromise on constitutional requirements. It requires that you should have been an active member for 10 years. You should be a person who, you know, he was a civil servant. And just a few years before he went to run for parliament, he had to resign.
Yeah, but nevertheless, he was paying his annual subscription to the party. He had membership cards from way back.
Simon, the constitution says 10 years.
Yes.
And you should know that in Mbale, even Honorable Mbide wanted to be vice president. He was disqualified. He's not the only one. Now, when anyone makes it appear as if, you know, someone was deliberately targeted, DP is not going anywhere. Unless you are on some mission which nobody knows, you can wait. Why do you have to kill the party because you must be on the ballot?
First of all, President General here has said, and this is a fact anyway, DP was born in 1954. This NRM was born in 1981. But this particular political party, NRM, was born 2004, 2005. So clearly, NRM is much younger than DP. Which...
But you told DP bad manners.
Which internal elections of DP, particularly which delegates conference of DP, has ever gone smoothly? Which one?
Hitherto, at least there's been some bit of sanity.
You know, the one of 1980, let us start from the one of 1980, which Semugere allegedly won. You know, Lule was prevented from coming. And as a consequence of that, Lule joined with the leader of UPM to found NRM. When NRM triumphed in January 1986, DP leaders agreed to be co-opted to work with the NRM in that famous gentleman's agreement of Budo na Bingo. As a consequence of that, Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogere largely moved a lone man throughout his tenure in NRM, 1986 to 1996. Even the bringing in of the other DP leaders into that government was out of the magnanimity of the leaders of NRM at that time. The Sebana Kizitos were left out. When Semugre, I'm now telling you what is on record, when Semugre was asked to name DP leaders who would want to come within the government, he left those people. As a consequence, DP began a major disintegration. You remember, during Semugre's tenure as DP leader, although we are not running a multi-party system, you remember there were two factions. You remember DP Mobilizers Group of Michael Kagwa, the ones that were having demonstration at State Square every other time. What was Ziritwaula? Tap dialogue. You remember it? By the time of 1996, when Semugre walked out of NRM, he walked out alone. He left the other former DP members in the cabinet. And that partly explains why those DP members, generally leaders, did not follow him when he went to stand as a presidential candidate in 1996.
Right.
The consequence of which, when he discovered that in Buganda he would not get sailing, he had to go to join, so to speak, for lack of a better phrase, he joined the devil incarnate, the UPC group of Cicero Guan, of Rwanyarare, of Okelo, and others. And that's why Honorable Buma was telling you the only place you could get refuge and support was Teso, Northern Uganda, West Nile, mainly on account of UPC, but also on account of the war afflictions that NRM by that time had failed to completely win that war, to resolve that conflict. And people transferred their anger over that war onto NRM, onto URM7, the 13% Honorable Ma was talking about. Since that time, the only election in DP which never caused a major split was the coming in of Sebana Kizito. I don't remember if it caused any major split in DP. But it did not bring back, Sebana's win did not bring back the DP leaders, DP members who had migrated. Honorable Mao's own first election, you know what it caused? And I dare say, since Honorable Mao's win, which was highly contested along tribal sectarian lines, which he's referring to, DP has been unable, and I want to say Honorable Mao as the leader has been unable to prevent the crumbling of the party.
So do you think that this could have been the last nail in the coffin of
I don't think it is the last nail. He now has an opportunity to step back and rebuild the party by either compromising even on some principles with the people who disagree with him strongly, or in the alternative, recruiting completely new people, particularly the young people, because Honorable Mao has a good tongue. Honorable Mao is well exposed. I don't think there's anybody who finds Honorable Mao unpersuasive if you listen to him. But I think in DP, there are people who are unwilling to listen to Honorable Mao's persuasive tongue. Why? Because as he himself has admitted, these people they are not shy about it. They think this is their thing. And you have had them.
And some think he's a sellout.
You have had the ones who are not even DP, but previously associated with the DP, they are now in NUP. You have had them, the language they use. Recently, one of them said, if there is any Muganda who is still supporting NRM and Museveni, must be only two things. Either their heads are not working, their brains, or must be extremely stupid. That's what he said. Chagulanyi is a member, a previous former member of DP. That's what he said. And what Mama is referring to. The rule is, I think they are a little modest version of Chagulanyi. And therefore, I don't think I don't think they are willing to come to a compromise with Honorable Mao. That's because which organization would want to change electoral rules on the day you want to vote? As if they do, unless they are saying, I've not been following the internal things of DP, particularly the election, unless they are saying they had petitioned for a review of their constitution with regard to election management, and Honorable Mao was obstinate.
Well, Honorable Mao
did not want to listen to them, but obviously, from the optics, first of all, the people who disagree with Mao would have gone any length to spoil the party, to spoil the elections, so that Mao gets off tainted. And therefore, I think it has been their stratagem all along.
Honorable Mao, we want to take a very short break, but
to provoke a fracas, and therefore the optics of seeing people physically carrying away ballot boxes after voting, aided by the police. I don't think anyone can say that election can be credible.
Other events of 2025?
One of the outstanding things for me is you know, the drainage channel, Nachivo channel. It stood out for me because, I mean, we debated it quite a lot. But, I mean, there are a couple of comments for me. The first comment is that it says a lot about how rich, the people that Museveni has elevated as rich. You know, some of our rich people are taking commissions from foreign capital, and they're happy to take that. You know, you can't be rich for me when you're fighting over a drainage channel with the other poor. There was a time when Wesonyiwe was a rich man, and he was fighting over a slaughterhouse, a bag, and you're rich. Olufula. And our rich people are not fighting for banks. I don't see a rich man. Museveni has failed to elevate a bourgeois which will be fighting for banks, starting telecoms. You think about Uganda Telecom. You know, if say I am Hamis Chugundu and I am as connected as he is, how would someone pay Uganda Telecom? Because Uganda Telecom, they make so much money. Way more money you'll make than from a drainage channel. You see, why don't they compete for things where there is big money? You know, Simon, what bothers me is that in this country, we export coffee and the 10 biggest are not from local. Neither of them is local. 70% of our coffee is sold by foreigners. Why don't we have one of Museveni's friends, maybe a kindred, maybe a blood relation, who owns a major coffee export company? You see, we have this thing in Fort Portal. Is it talking about Fort Portal?
But there is Nelson Tugume.
Yeah, but we're throwing money in it. Have you ever had money being thrown in Chagalanyi or Yugakov? Why are we throwing money in what's it called? Why? You tell me, the 7%, the people sell 7% of our coffee. Have you ever had them asking for money from government? No. But the one that we are forming, pretending to be doing it, we have to first throw money into it. You see? So it bothers me, but the point I want to make is the drain channel was very instructive for me. What Museveni has done to his friends is that you elevate them to lowly positions. They are as poor as us. You see, instead of competing for big money, like real big money. So I'm telling you, banks, pocket like 10 billion every morning. Rather, telecommunication companies, like 10 billion every morning. You can't get that from rent over a drainage channel. You can't. Over in a slaughterhouse, animals being slaughtered. You know how much banks make half a year? 300 billion after tax. They often show these things in the newspapers. You don't have our rich men competing for those things. Do you know who our rich men dealing in gold trade? So our rich men, the pain for me was partly in the loss of life, partly in the the draining of the city, but going for small things such as the drainage channels and I appeal to Museveni's friends.
It's in the name of patriotism.
No, I should appeal to Museveni's friends. You're parting over a drainage channel. You go for a